The third plenum of the Communist Party's Central Committee lays out the blueprint for China's further reforms and modernization. Locally, lawmakers pass an amendment bill to expedite redevelopment of old buildings. And in the U.S., J.D. Vance accepts a Republican VP nomination. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China concluded the four-day third plenary session in Beijing today. The top-level meeting laid out the country's policy direction over the next 5 years, including priorities on reform and modernization. Here are the key takeaways. The four-day closed-door third plenary session concluded today. While only a broad-brush summary was released, economic issues remain front and center in the communique. The top-level meeting endorsed a blueprint of further deepening reform and advancing China's modernization. Such reforms will be completed by 2029. And by 2035, a high-standard socialist market economy should be established, which will help create a fairer and more vibrant market environment. The mechanism to develop new productive forces should be improved. China will insist on its national policy of keeping its doors open. And the country will also expand international cooperation and deepen reforms on the foreign trade system while fostering the high-quality development of the Belt and Road Initiative. Apart from boosting domestic demands and external trade, efforts should be made in preventing risks in areas such as the real estate sector and local government debts. The meeting also mentioned the fundamental and strategic importance of education, technology, and talent to China's modernization. So efforts of reform will be dedicated to such areas. Apart from fortifying national security, defense, and the military, the country's work will continue on Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan affairs as well. Meanwhile, Qin Gang, China's former foreign minister who disappeared from public view more than a year ago, was officially stripped of his seat on the CPC Central Committee in the meeting. The third plenum's communique stated that Qin's resignation application was accepted. But the 58-year-old was still referred to as a comrade, suggesting he still holds Communist Party membership. Former Defense Minister Li Xiangfu, meanwhile, was expelled from the party for serious violations of discipline and the law. The Legislative Council has passed an amendment bill lowering the compulsory sale application threshold for old buildings to expedite their redevelopment. That means for private buildings aged 50 or above, the required minimum proportion of owners agreeing to the sale will be reduced from 80% to as low as 65%. The arrangement is expected to take effect in mid-December. With more than half of the lawmakers voting in favor, the amendment bill passed its third reading today. Currently, the city has around 9,600 old private buildings aged 50 years or above. To speed up redevelopment work, the government proposed legal amendments to relax the compulsory sale application threshold for these buildings. Designated areas with more aged buildings include Chenshanwan, Shamshuipo, Mongkok, Yangma-Tei, Kowloon City, Tokwawan, Saiyingpun, Shengwan, and Wanchai. For buildings aged 50 to 59 in these areas, if 70% of the owners agree, they can apply for a compulsory sale of their buildings. And for buildings aged 60 or above, the threshold is lowered to 65%. The amendment also allows buildings aged 50 years or above in the same lot to apply for a joint compulsory sale. While most lawmakers supported the bill, some abstained from voting.
I hope the government will consider balancing the rights and interests of minority owners. Take the example of Singapore. Threshold remains at 80% or 90%, but the government actively helps minority owners to group together their ownerships and sell to developers.
It is always a battle between minority owners and private developers. I want to reassure the public that the government will be providing support to minority owners.
The Development Secretary said there will be a government-led support service center for minority owners run by non-profit and local organizations. Lawyers and surveyors will provide preliminary legal advisory service on issues such as mediation free of charge to minority owners at the center. In Tuen Mun, a crane truck struck overhead power cable near the Shui Pin Y stop, disrupting services on several light rail lines. Clips provided by viewers showed a crane truck traveling along Castle Peak Road, heading towards central Yuen Long. The truck hit a power cable when it turned into Shui Pin Wai interchange, sending sparks into the air. Afterwards, the vehicle stopped by the side of the road. The broken cable fell onto the road. MTR staff conducted an on-site inspection and performed emergency repairs. 4 light rail lines, 610, 614, 615, and 761P had to be rerouted. Free shuttle buses were arranged. With Donald Trump watching from the stands, his vice president nominee, J.D. Vance, introduced himself to a national audience on day 3 of the Republican National Convention. The 39-year-old from Ohio cast himself and Trump as fighters and the proponent of an America First agenda, which he believes is being disintegrated by U.S. President Joe Biden and the Democrats. Last week, Kareem has more.
Donald Trump, his right ear still bandaged after Saturday's assassination attempt in Pennsylvania, walks purposefully and confident into the Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee for day 3 of the Republican National Convention. Soaking up the adulation from thousands of supporters, Trump, however, took a backseat. As Americans were introduced to J.D. Vance, his 39-year-old running mate for the November 5th presidential election. Vance, once a fierce critic of Trump, now only glorifies him. In accepting the vice presidential nomination, he hailed the former president as a man of the people, raising him to hero status after Saturday's incident.
But as we meet tonight, we cannot forget that this evening could have been so much different. Instead of a day of celebration, this could have been a day of heartache and mourning. For the last 8 years, President Trump has given everything he has to fight for the people of our country. He didn't need politics, but the country needed him. I want all Americans to go and watch the video of a would-be assassin coming a quarter of an inch from taking his life. Consider the lies they told you about Donald Trump, and then look at that photo of him, defiant, fist in the air, when Donald Trump rose to his feet in that Pennsylvania field. All of America stood with him. And so tonight, Mr. Chairman, I stand here humbled, and I'm overwhelmed with gratitude to say I officially accept your nomination to be Vice President of the United States of America.
The convention set aside time for some of the families of the 13 U.S. service members killed by a suicide bombing in Afghanistan in August 2021, as American troops were being pulled out. Republicans have blamed U.S. President Joe Biden for their deaths because of his decision to remove the troops after 2 decades, even though the withdrawal agreement was signed by Trump in February 2020. Trump left the convention waving to the crowd, looking content and in control. Trump supporters raved about his VP pick, but on the 4th and final day, it will be all about the man himself when he will be officially anointed as a Republican presidential nominee. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
At Wednesday's RNC convention, Vance spoke about his upbringing in Middleton, Ohio, his family's struggles and Appalachian roots to make the case that he understands the challenges facing struggling Americans. Tracy Furness has more about the Republican vice presidential nominee.
To the people of Middletown, Ohio, and all the forgotten communities in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, and every corner of our nation, I promise you this: I will be a vice president who never forgets where he came from.
In his first primetime speech since becoming the nominee for vice president, Vance spoke about growing up poor in Kentucky and Ohio. But this wasn't the first time he shared his story. Long before he was a U.S. Senator from Ohio, Vance rose to prominence on the wings of his 2016 best-selling memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, where he captured the essence of Trump's political resonance in a rural Rust Belt town ravaged by joblessness and addiction. Vance's grandmother encouraged him to join the Marine Corps, where he served in Iraq. She also encouraged him to go to law school, where he graduated from Ohio State University and Yale. At Yale, he met his now wife, Usha, and together they have 3 children. From there, he joined a Silicon Valley investment firm before returning to Ohio to launch a nonprofit aimed to develop opioid addiction treatments that might be scaled nationally. That venture failed. His fame grew in tandem with Trump's. But he was not a fan casting Trump in his early political career as a total fraud and a moral disaster. But like many Republicans who sought relevance in the Trump era, he changed his tone after seeing Trump's performance in office. Vance landed Trump's endorsement in his bid for an open Senate seat in 2022, which he won. Now a Trump loyalist, he has challenged the legitimacy of criminal prosecutions and civil verdicts against the former president and questioned the 2020 election results. Vance is largely untested on a national political level, but is joining the Trump ticket for this extraordinary ride. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
U.S. President Joe Biden tested positive for COVID-19 on Wednesday, which scrapped a campaign event in Las Vegas at a key juncture in his re-election bid. He is currently self-isolating in Delaware amid questions raised by some Democrats about his age and fitness to do the job. One of the latest polls suggests nearly two-thirds of Democrats want him to quit the race and allow the party to choose another nominee. Danny Zhou has the story.
Joe Biden late Wednesday landed in his home state of Delaware. The White House said the president had received his COVID vaccine and booster shots, and he is experiencing mild symptoms. He plans to spend the weekend at his beach house to self-isolate and will continue to work. This came as Biden tested positive for coronavirus while traveling in Las Vegas. After Tuesday's speech at the NAACP's national convention, he went to a local restaurant Wednesday and greeted with the diners there. And as part of his efforts to energize Hispanic voters, Biden was slated to address the Unidos U.S. convention, but did not appear at the event following his diagnosis. The 81-year-old president Tuesday said in an interview that he would reevaluate his decision to stay in the race if his condition worsened, though insisting he was not backing down. Top Democrats, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, have also increased pressure on Biden. Schumer presented polling data to the president in a one-on-one meeting Saturday and directly conveyed opinions of the caucus. And CNN reported that former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi privately warned Biden of the presidential race peril, which might destroy the Democrats' chances of winning the House in November.
Nearly two-thirds of Democrats want President Joe Biden to withdraw from the race and allow his party to choose another nominee, according to a new poll from AP Norc.
The poll, conducted from July the 11th to the 15th, also found that only about 3 in 10 Democrats are confident that Biden has the mental capability to serve effectively as president. The Democratic National Convention is scheduled to kick off on August the 19th in Chicago. Some House Democrats have cautioned that swiftly nominating Biden with a virtual roll call would be a terrible idea to stifle debate about the party's nominee. The Democratic National Committee has decided not to rush this virtual process through in July and delay it to early August. But the exact date of the virtual vote remains undecided. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
And still ahead, QR code clearance service at immigration control points for Hong Kong and Macau residents starting tomorrow. An update on dengue fever cases in the city. Welcome back. Starting tomorrow, Hong Kong and Macau will launch the mutual use of QR code clearance service at immigration control points. Eligible residents who have registered for the automated immigration clearance service of the other city can use QR codes on their mobile phones to pass through customs. Helen Chen has more.
Currently, Hong Kong and Macau residents traveling between the two places need to show their ID cards when passing through immigration control points. But the two governments have launched a mutual use of QR code clearance service. Eligible residents need to register in advance for automated clearance services at the Registration of Persons Office or self-service kiosk at the destination port. Permanent Hong Kong residents aged 11 and above or bearers of Hong Kong ID cards with the 1 star or 3 stars or the R symbol can download the contactless e-channel mobile app and generate an encrypted QR code on mobile phones. Permanent Macau residents aged 11 and above can generate a QR code through the Macau One Account app and use it to access the Hong Kong e-channels.
最重要嘅優化點咧，就係我哋
Wai Han, director of the Macau Public Administration and Civil Service Bureau, described the quickness of the scan and access of identity information from the phone as the most important optimization. The Hong Kong Immigration Department said the new service has gone through multiple stress tests, and the department is confident that the new arrangement can handle the peak flow of people during holidays. Tai Chi-yuan, assistant director of the Immigration Department, said no personal information will appear on the QR codes from the Hong Kong side. He said 2.5 million Hong Kong residents have already registered for Macau's automated clearance service. The Immigration Department reminds residents to carry valid Hong Kong identity cards with them, even when using the QR code service. Helen Chen, TVB News.
The Consumer Council issued an apology to mainland bottled water brand Nongfu Spring. That's after the firm threatened legal action against the watchdog over a report on its products. The latest edition of the Consumer Council's Choice magazine published an article saying that every liter of Nongfu Spring's bottled water contains 3 micrograms of potential carcinogen bromate, and that amount has reached a maximum limit under EU regulations. An allegation that the company said is erroneous and that the product should not be categorized as mineral water but natural drinking water. The brand said for drinking water, the EU's limit for bromate is 10 micrograms per liter. It added that the report has caused panic among Hong Kong and mainland consumers, leading to massive damage to the company. In response, the Consumer Council reclassified the product in question as natural drinking water after meeting with Nongfu Spring representatives. The watchdog also adjusted the company's product rating from 4.5 stars to the highest level of 5. Summer is high season for mosquitoes, and the Center for Health Protection today held a briefing on mosquito-related health issues, focusing on dengue fever. Hong Kong has recorded 37 cases of dengue fever so far this year. The center said 3 are local cases and the remaining ones are imported. The Mo Sang-ai reports.
Dengue fever is a mosquito-borne infection caused by the dengue virus, often found in tropical and subtropical regions. The Center for Health Protection today said 37 dengue fever cases were recorded in the city as of Wednesday. Among them, 34 were imported from countries such as Malaysia and Indonesia. The 3 remaining cases were found locally, 2 from Tin Shui Wai and 1 from Siu Shai Wan. Patients of the 2 Tin Shui Wai cases live in the same building, Tin Shui First Estate. The CHP said they have contacted more than 2,000 households in that area up until Wednesday and found no new dengue cases. The CHP, however, said residents should pay attention to the risks of the disease because of a rise of dengue fever cases across the world. Authorities said climate change could be a contributing factor.
With massive rainfall or increase in temperature in many areas of the world, all these factors facilitate the growth of the vector.
The CHP also said many members of the public have insufficient understanding on the application of insect repellents. Health authorities said residents should check out ingredient labels on insect repellents before buying them.
They will try to look for effective ingredient like DEET, and in general, the concentration recommended for general public is about 10 to 30%.
Authority says a preparedness and response plan for dengue fever will be launched if the disease poses a major health impact on residents. Mo Sang-ai, TVB News.
South Korea today ordered people living near rivers in the central region to evacuate their homes as a heavy monsoon dumped more than 300 millimeters of rain. Warnings went out across a large part of the country, including Seoul, as heavy rain caused the cancellation of more than 24 flights at Incheon International Airport. Train services in Seoul were also disrupted. The government was also watching for sudden surges in rivers flowing from North Korea, calling for vigilance against any landmines planted at the border that may get washed downstream. South Korea's military said it could not rule out the possibility that the North had planted more mines in recent weeks, aware of the likelihood of heavy rain. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.